All right, and that was Iron Maiden Remember Tomorrow off of their debut album. Good stuff, Up the Irons. Wanted to say hi to everybody in the chat room. We have Nessie and Tammy out in California. Welcome, Tammy. And we have Vic Grabowski and Mad Brad and Steve Bello and Lori and Gary Shadow Killer hanging out in the chat room, and everybody else out there tuned in today. Thank you guys so much. Well, right now I want to welcome to the show CJ Ortiz, also known as the Metal Motivator, with Metal Motivation. Welcome to the show, CJ.
Hey, Vicky. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on my show. You know, it's quite an honor to have you on my show. I've been following Metal Motivation for a few years now, and you know, it's very exciting for me to be able to sit down and chat with you about what it is you do and everything. So good stuff. And you know what, guys? We were just talking offline, off the air, and we just found out that we grew up in the same town. How wild is that?
It's the same small town. We're not talking about a big city here. We're talking about a very small town in what's considered upstate New York, but only considered upstate by city people, not upstate. People think upstate, they think Albany, New York. Upstate to anybody in the city is anything 45 minutes to an hour outside of the city. And that little town of Austin.
Yeah. Wow. You know, I don't consider Westchester County upstate at all. I pretty much consider, you know, maybe not even Dutchess County, Ulster County, maybe starting there. That's upstate to me.
Right.
But yeah, people in the city and Long Island, we're upstate to them, which is just funny.
And so as I've said offline, I moved to Texas when I was about 13 years old, and so I consider myself a Texan in that regard because I spent most of my years there. But you know, you'll never take that New York out of me. I've always going to love New York. Always loved visiting New York, and so you know, it's still the second home to me.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm in North Carolina now, though.
Absolutely. You know, we moved to New York when I was 4.5 from Cincinnati. So I pretty much, you know, grew up in Ossining. But, you know, we were talking offline about, you know, we didn't go to the same high school. You had already moved at that point. But we did go to the same middle school. And I don't know about elementary school. What elementary school did you go to?
Elementary school, I went first to Park School.
Okay.
And then I moved from South Highland Avenue up a little further north and went to Roosevelt School before A&D.
That is so Roosevelt, that's where I went to school. I grew up in Indian Village.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old are you?
Well, let's say I've been around for at least half a century.
Well, me too. I mean, I'll be 52 next month. So.
Okay, so you know, we might have been in Roosevelt at the same time. Do you remember Mr. Rowe?
I remember him. I had Mr. Wheattake.
Mr. Wheattake, oh my gosh, and Mr. J that taught music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Wheattake and Rowe were good buddies.
Yes.
And I remember when Mr. Wheattake was fired, and Mr. Rowe came in and gave us a little talk just to get out and get our parents to get Mr. Wheattake back. But yeah, Mr. Rowe, big guy, beard, glasses.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And the female teacher was Mrs. Vega?
I think that's right.
Oh boy.
Right.
Wow, this is so wild, CJ. I mean, I had no idea.
Very weird.
It is really, really weird. We must have been in Roosevelt at the same time because...
Oh, it had to be.
Yeah, because our middle school, I started at Roosevelt. I went to kindergarten with Mrs. Sachs, who will always remember her. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman who still recognizes me when I see her every so often, which is really funny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went there maybe 1970, 1969. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Wow. You just never know, guys. I mean, this is so wild to me. Something that was unexpected, you know?
Yeah, it's funny.
To be able to share, you know, growing up on a river town like we did. You know, for those of you not familiar, Westchester County is about 45 minutes north of Manhattan. And it's basically a lot of the towns in Westchester are considered river towns. We're right on the Hudson River. And now I live a little bit more north. I live more in the Peekskill area. So, you know, it's not too far away. But yeah, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
So what I want to get to first, CJ, is Metal Motivation. Just describe to the listeners what year is it you formed Metal Motivation and your primary goal. Now it is, I know, daily screams for living aggressively, and I love that.
It officially formed, should I say, it officially launched on Halloween of 2009. Like you just described it, the tagline is Daily Screams for Living Aggressively. So the advertising beforehand was to say that the screaming begins this Halloween. And so I always wanted the anniversaries to be on Halloween. It just seemed appropriate for that kind of, metal theme. But it actually started a year prior in terms of all the planning and formulating, and I was working with another guy who was helping me out, a good friend of mine, and we sort of talked it all out and whatnot, and then launched it officially there on 2009. Now, at the time, there was not a lot of motivational stuff going on. Of course, that's all changed on social media, but at that time, there wasn't a whole lot going on. So wasn't a whole lot of people doing what I was doing. And it just kind of, took off because of the original idea, if you will. There was plenty of motivational people in the world, but there was only one Metal Motivator. However, the objective and a purpose to all of this was not simply to follow the same game plan as other motivational speakers and teachers. Most motivational speakers and teachers, the people that are going to go out to see them at one of their seminars or events are, it's going to be like a real estate agent that wants to improve their sales.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very material driven. It's very performance oriented. It's success, and that's going to equate to getting the money you want, getting the job you want, getting the house you want, getting the relationship you want, etc. Now, I don't have anything against that. You don't break any laws by wanting to get the house that you want. However, what I saw was an area that wasn't being targeted, which just happened to be represented also by the people that I wanted to target, and that was really more of a life philosophy, not so much isolating everything down to success or achievement. Because most of these people that I wanted to reach, for example, within the metal community, the rock community, these are people who they're not necessarily going to a church on a Sunday, or they're not, they don't have $5,000 to spend on a weekend event for Tony Robbins, you know what I'm saying? And the other ones just didn't really care about something like personal development or self-improvement. So, but they were dealing with very real issues. They were dealing with breakups. They were dealing with depression. They were dealing with anxiety. They were dealing with being stuck in a rut. They were dealing with, confusion. They were dealing with being in dead-end jobs, dead-end relationships, etc. So what I saw Metal Motivation, even though the word motivation is in it, it is so much bigger than that. It's intended to be more of a message that addresses multiple areas of life. So what I do is really kind of more in the domain of maybe what a religion might do, more so than what a individual motivational speaker might do. Unless, of course, you think of guys like, I can't remember his name. He used to talk about love all the time back in the 70s and 80s.
Leo Buscaglia?
Yeah, Leo Buscaglia.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So somebody like that. They are inspirational, but they're covering much more than something, as isolated as personal success, however you want to define that. So going after that sort of domain with this particular brand, the Metal Motivation brand, put me off by myself there. Not that I was competing with anybody, but I wasn't having to try and stand out amongst all of these other motivational speakers. And so that was kind of the driving idea behind it. And the goal ultimately to, not to sound like, Miss America here, what would you do if you could change the world? It's literally to try and leave the world in a better place than when I got here. And the reason why this is doable now, not that you're going to literally change the world, so to speak, you just change the people that you can affect and reach.
Right.
But the reason why this is viable right now is because of social media. Without social media, you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Absolutely not. Yeah, that's so true.
Because prior to social media, it's funny, prior to social media, if you were goofing off on the internet, it was called surfing the web. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, surfing the web, yeah.
Surfing the web. Why? Because websites were new and you wanted to see what was out there.
Yes.
Nobody does that anymore. So what happens today? If you were saying somebody was wasting time on the internet, you would say you're checking their social media. So that's a significant change.
Sure.
So prior to social media, if somebody wanted something, if they got information, they typically searched for it, right? You put in the keyword search into Google or whatever, and you searched for information. In the social media age, people share information. So you go from searching to sharing. And the difference now is that with something like a metal motivation, you can have somebody who likes heavy metal or hard rock or whatever, and they can sit down at their computer and want to get some information on staying motivated or whatever. They're not going to think to themselves, I wonder if there's a heavy metal version of motivation, and then put that in the keyword search. They're just going to look up whatever topic they're interested in, and it could pull up Tony Robbins or whoever else. They don't care that Tony Robbins is or is not metal. They just want information.
Right.
But in the age of social media, somebody like yourself discovers a metal motivator, and then you share it on your page to all your other metalhead friends and say, check this out. It's a heavy metal Tony Robbins. So
exactly, which is more appealing.
Exactly. So this is why it happened. It happened and grew because we're in the advent of social media where people are sharing it as opposed to someone trying to find me in a Google search.
Exactly. It's all about communication and, cross promotion. And the fact that, it's the World Wide Web. You can reach anybody anywhere,
Right.
and kind of help them throughout their day, whatever it is they're struggling with or whatever it is they need positive reinforcement on. You talk about it, and your podcasts and your Facebook Lives are so inspirational, so positive, and you really walk away from it. They become very thought provoking. And I just really enjoy them. And the fact, yes, that you're a metalhead, because as we know, the metal community is like no other. The camaraderie, the friendships, just the feeling of being around other metalheads is so exhilarating. It's truly a special thing that we all have.
Yes, it is, and that's why I thought when the idea first came to me, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper right here where I'm sitting right now. I knew it. I knew it as soon as I wrote it down that it would become, what it is. I just knew it. Now, of course, the other side of my life is the business that I own, which deals with marketing and communications and design and branding and all these sorts of things. So this is a combination of my abilities to do this. So when I thought about the idea, I thought about it, as a marketing and communications professional, so I could see the viableness of the idea at the outset. It wasn't guesswork. I knew it would work. I knew from a brand took a lot of work, but it was easy in the sense that I knew how to do it. I knew what I needed to lead with. I knew I needed a combination of blogs and videos and audio podcasts and all these things. Of course, we didn't have all the cool stuff that Facebook has now at the time.
Right.
Back in 2009. And and I tell people all the time. I said, listen, if you're doing if you have a band, for example, or a business, or like in your case, a radio show, social media is got to be central to it, and there's a way to do it. And so I'll tell people oftentimes, just watch how I do things, and you'll pick up a lot about how you need to do it. It's not just about advertising your events. That's what most people do. Most bands do that. They just push their events, and they don't get any likes, they don't get any engagement, they don't get any reach, and nobody really shows up. Because you can't work social media that way. Social media is a relationship, and you have to treat it that way. So I don't go in there and just post events. I'm on there. I'm talking. I'm answering questions. I'm interacting with people. And so it creates this attachment. It's kind of it's like a heavy metal shepherd.
Right. I agree with that actually. That it would be better almost for a band to, it's great to promote their events and where they're going to be and what they're doing, but to maybe make a little video of themselves talking about the event, talking about the show, talking about the other bands that are going to be playing with them, what the venue is going to be like. And that way it's more of a personal level that they're reaching out to people like, hey, these guys are for real. Here they are. And they're going to be playing at this club, a half hour from me. I'm going to go check them out now.
They should be sharing everything. They should be, if something happens like what just happened recently, the news about Glenn Tipton,
yes,
they should share that. They should be saying, good morning, Metalhead. They should be doing live videos, even if they're just goofing off, whatever fits their brand or their style or whatever. They see something funny in the store, sign or something, take a picture of it, post it. I'll do anything like that, because it's all, what you're doing is you're bringing people into your life. People want to follow people.
Right.
And that's just the way the game is played now in social media. And I tell people this way, I say Facebook, for example, is the internet contained. And that's a really, really important point. Facebook is the internet contained, because before Facebook and other social media channels, it was like if you wanted to spread a virus, let's say you had a bad flu virus, and you're going to go stand in the middle of Times Square in New York City and try to get people sick, it's going to be very hard to do, because it's too big, too ubiquitous, too spread out, people are moving too fast. However, if you got on a packed commercial airliner with that same flu virus, you're going to infect a whole lot of people. Why? Because the crowd is contained. They're not walking all over the street like they are in Times Square. That's social media. Social media is the internet contained on a commercial airline, and your band or business is that virus that needs to spread. So the more you put into what it is you're doing, qualities that make people want to share it, the better you're going to do. And just telling people, here's my event, is not a viral way to do it. It's better to do a bunch of posts that are just personal and celebratory of people and metal and what's going on in your life, and then every now and then interject the event. Then people are much, much more apt to come and see you because you've established a relationship with them.
That is a really good view and take on all of that. And I'm actually going to stick that in my memory here and keep that in mind, for myself and what I do with Metal Euphoria. That's what I mean about you, CJ, is you're very insightful, you're very perceptive, and you really invoke a lot of, thought-provoking things with people, that it gets you thinking like, yes, that is a great way to go about it.
Right.
My friend Nessie, she's in the chat room, and she does these videos on Facebook that she calls Vanessa's at the beach. She lives down in Queens, and usually it has a very
Right.
positive message or whatever she wants to relay to people. And she said in chat room that she's already integrating ideas in her mind on networking for
Good.
future. So there you
Great.
go. You know,
Absolutely. Well, and yeah, and that's this is the new world in which we live, and we we have to create value for ourselves, and that takes time, but you have to mean it. And I think most people who are trying to do something in a band or business, they do mean it. They're trying their best. They want to take advantage of these powerful tools, but it's there are the laws that govern communications are as sure as the laws that govern electricity. And you can't expect yourself to be both an expert in your business and an expert in communications. But there's a whole lot that you could pick up that you wouldn't normally be able to pick up simply because there's so much that's freely accessible now on social media. And I think, it's exciting in that we're in a new do-it-yourself world, and the democratization of social media has leveled the playing field, et cetera, et cetera. But that also is daunting because that means you can't suck.
right.
You really have to, if you're going to, these are powerful tools, but if you're not proficient at what you do, it's going to be harder and harder. You're going to get frustrated because it's not just understand. I could understand social media as I do, but if I don't put out good stuff, if I don't, design things well and take care of the packaging and all of that sort of stuff, well, nobody's going to follow it because it's not going to create any value for them. It's not going to create a strong enough brand for them. And, the thing about Metal Motivation is that it is idea driven. And that's really important because people think that branding, for example, is when your stationary letterhead matches your website. Or,
Okay.
that, those are all important to have, but that's
Sure.
not branding. Branding, like if you're at someone's house and you've been battling with a little cold, you've got a runny nose, and you need to wipe your nose, you don't ask people, do you have a facial tissue? You might ask, hey, do you have a Kleenex?
Right.
Or
Mm-hmm.
if you're visiting somebody's house and cut your little finger and you say, oh, do you have an adhesive bandage? Or do you say, do you have a Band-Aid?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So these Band-Aid and Kleenex are brand names. They are not product names. The actual product name is facial tissue. The actual product name is adhesive bandage. But you'll use a brand name in place of those things. That's branding. When an actual entity owns a particular idea in the mind. And so real branding is going to be idea driven. When I used to first talk about Metal Motivation to other people one-on-one, and I would tell them about it, they would say, oh wow, they always say, oh wow, that's a good idea. They always say that. Oh, what a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
See, they understand that this is an idea, that this is a creative idea, and because of that, the idea has the power in and of itself to push itself out into the marketplace. People often can't help but share it. I don't have to say share it. They'll share it anyway.
Right.
Because it's just something that, just like you can't help but share that cat video.
Right.
Or you can't help but share the post that say that Lemmy died. Or you can't help but share the post that say Glenn Tipton is battling Parkinson's. Or you can't help to put out the post that, says that so-and-so is coming out with a new album. into the marketplace rather than have to struggle and beg people to come and take it, come and lift it, come and, you want it to just push by its own power and force. And so that's what something like a mental motivation does, because, I began with certain questions I asked myself, which is, what is, as a friend of mine used to say, the problem that infuriates you the most is the one you're supposed to solve.
Okay.
So the problems that infuriate me the most are the ones that I try to solve every day on mental motivation, the struggles that people have, negative thinking, et cetera, et cetera. So the problem that infuriates you the most is the one you are assigned to solve. And there's a second maxim that says, those to whom you have compassion are those to whom you then assign. So it's understanding the particular problem I want to solve because it's the one that frustrates me the most, and then understanding the people I have the most compassion for to go and solve the problem in that arena, not anywhere else.
Right, exactly.
I'm just going to that arena. Yeah, and then being in that arena makes it worthwhile and works well. Now, I can grow beyond that. Just like with the era of reality television, people like Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne moved out of the isolated arena of the rock and roll community into mainstream culture, to where everybody knows who Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne are now.
Right, they do.
Right. So you can have that crossover effect, but you're not going to get there unless you first focus on the problem that bothers you the most and the people you have the most compassion for.
That's very cool.
You find these
yeah.
niches, and that's what you attack. And so we're talking about more the business back end of mental motivation. But
right. Well, I was going to ask you, how it is you go about choosing the topics or creating the memes that you do, and basically, yes, it's things that people are frustrated about in their lives. And one of the things you mentioned was, how to stop negative thinking, which is a great series that you did that has really helped a lot. When I listen to that, because it's so easy for us to think negatively sometimes. You try to stay positive, you try to look at things, with the glass half full and all of that. But negative thinking always seems to creep in there somewhere. That if something is really going well for you, well, there's that little devil tapping you on the shoulder going, well, this could happen. And you try to push it away, and you say, no, there's no need for that. And, when you're talking to somebody one-on-one, which, when I watch your podcast, yes, you're reaching out to a huge array of people. But when you watch it, it's like, it's a one-on-one, and like, if you're speaking to me, yes, this is what I'm going through right now. And your words, have helped me. One of the things you did the other day was the pursuit of happiness, but that it should be more a pursuit of fulfillment. And I really enjoyed that one because, it's a big phrase, right? We've had it, since this country started, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But, as you were mentioning, happiness can be a fleeting thing. It's a temporary good feeling. Something wonderful happens. Oh my gosh, I finally got that job I wanted. I'm very happy about that. Oh, but a month later, my coworkers, well, they kind of suck. And, now I'm not so happy. But is it fulfilling? And that is more important, because fulfillment is a lifelong thing to have. And, absolutely.
Yes, it's a deeper, lasting satisfaction. I mean, that's what people don't realize is happiness is supposed to be a satisfaction. And if you don't have a satisfaction, then you're always going to have this void that needs filling. hungry because you're going to buy probably 20 to 30% more than you would normally buy simply because you're hungry.
Exactly.
So everything looks good to you and you start throwing it in the cart. But if you are satisfied, then you are more objective about your decision making. And so it's not driven by emotion. It's not driven by these perceived voids in your life. You're a satisfied, fulfilled person. And so you start to say, well, what actually happens is you start cutting things off in your life. Because you won't, when we're in pursuit of happiness, we keep trying all of these different things. Oh, maybe that'll make me happier. Or maybe that'll make me feel better. Or maybe that. It's because you don't have that fulfillment. You're looking for everything from relationships to binge watching something on Netflix to food to whatever. You try and pacify the void that's in you. But the void can only be pacified or satisfied by fulfillment. You have to full and fill yourself. And the only way to do that is to maximize all that you are as a person, meaning your character, who you are, and all that you can do, your abilities, your resources. If you can maximize all that you are and all that you can do for a purpose greater than yourself, you will find fulfillment.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, so for me, for example, like I mentioned, the other side of my life is my communications business. So doing social media and branding and design and advertising and all of that. So those are skills that I have, and I've had them for over a quarter century. Then you have the other side of my life, which is the motivational philosophy stuff. So I'm maximizing those. I'm combining them to do something like Metal Motivation. I'm the one doing all the design work. I'm the one editing the video. I'm the one creating the audio. I'm the one writing the article. I'm the one designing the t-shirts. I do it all. So it's all my resident skill sets, plus it's my motivational philosophy that's being developed. So I'm maximizing all that I can do. On the other side, I have to keep working on who I am as a person so that I can be happy with who I go to sleep with at night. Or as my podcast co-host said a week or so ago, he said, the softest pillow is a clear conscience.
Yes, I liked that.
Yeah, so that for all of us, the best way to have a clear conscience is to be very, very satisfied with yourself. And the only way to be satisfied with yourself is to know that you are growing as a person. You know what I mean? That whatever, if you're challenged with anger and impatience, that you're slowly getting the upper hand. I had somebody write in who had asked a question because they suffer from chronic nightmares. And someone else asking about, you almost mentioned it yourself, about having to deal with bad coworkers, etc. So for example, the person dealing with a bad coworker, and I said, well, listen, ultimately, problem is you, not this person, because we're so self-taught to say, he made me mad, she frustrates me, etc. Nobody makes you anything. You allow them to. You give them permission to. You give them authority to. For example, a stranger can come up to you and say some really, really mean stuff to you. And it might affect you, yeah, but I think you'll get over it relatively quickly because you say, man, they don't know me. I don't know who the hell this person is. But if it's someone very, very close to you who said the very same words, it would affect you.
Sure.
But it's not because the words are right about you. It's not simply because they know you. It's because if they know you, you grant their words power over you, whereas you won't grant the stranger's words to have power over you. But it's the same words.
Right, no, that's true. Yeah.
Why does one affect you and one not affect you? That's determined by you. That's determined by who you give authority over you in your life.
Yep. What happens to you is what you allow to happen to you. I do understand some things are beyond people's control when certain situations happen in your life, but ultimately, how people treat you and how people affect you is how you make that to be. We're in control of our own lives. One of the things that you cite on your Metal Motivation page is, the power and healthy aggression of heavy metal is what fuels motivation. It's all about the attitude and the mindset to blast through life's obstacles and dominate your life.
Right.
And that is so important, that you have to have the strength within yourself to get through whatever life throws at you. Because as we all know, life throws a whole bunch of stuff at us. And some of it might be, you saw it coming. Some of it was just from left field. And you got to think, all right, how am I going to battle this? How am I going to push through this? And it's a very difficult thing to do sometimes. But you just have to believe, in yourself, basically, that, I will get through this. Not I should but I will. And I think using certain words are so key. It makes me think of when you're trying to help somebody and you say something to them along the lines of, what you should do, CJ? Right away, I think you're going to tune me out because you're telling me what I should do. But if you say, I've been thinking, I have this suggestion, CJ, that I was thinking, that's something that you might want to look at or think about. Right away, your mind is more perceptive to listening to what that person has to say. It's really all about the verbiage of how you talk to somebody, that can empower them or, put them down a notch. And we don't like to do that, because that's not good. There's enough of that in the world. And what you do is such a trickle-down effect as well. And as we know, trickle-down effects can be so positive because it just, you're reaching out to another person and that person, says, hey, I heard of this today. Check this out. What do you think about that? And it's just, it starts to build up, and it's wonderful. We actually have a question in the chat room from Tammy in California. And she says, so how does the tagline, daily screams for living aggressively, play into your ideology?
Well, I would think it would be self-explanatory. It's, the daily screams are obviously the daily messages that you're getting, daily interaction. I'm not going to disappear for 3 months. In other words, you're going to see me daily. So it's daily screams for living aggressively, and so much the same as you described earlier, heavy metal is an aggressive form of music, but it doesn't make us detriments to society. The aggression is healthy in the sense that it helps you to dominate your own life. So, for example, we tend to see anger and or hatred as negative emotions. But hatred is a good thing when it's directed at the right thing.
Right.
Find me a person who loves child abuse. We can find some pretty serious examples of severe forms of child abuse where children are raped and beaten and imprisoned and you name it. Don't you hate that?
Absolutely.
I hate that. And so I'm glad there's that emotion there to be directed towards that. So in other words, things like aggression and anger and hatred are healthy emotions when they're directed in the right way for the right reasons against the right things. And so without that healthy aggression, we would stay where we are. And most people do. Most people settle in life. They settle. And I've always defined they have probably a potential of 10, 15, 20 times more in every area of their life. They're going to stay the way they are. So that healthy aggression is there to get you to say, you know what, no. I'm thankful for where I am. I have gratitude for where I am in life. I'm grateful, let's just say, if you have this particular job or whatever, you're grateful for the things that you have. But at the same time, you know you've got so much more in you that you want to do, so much more in you that you know that you can be. So you need some form of aggression because life is going to resist you. Life is not going to walk up to you and knock on the door and say, hey, you know what, you've got a whole lot more potential. Let me roll out the red carpet of easy living for you and help you get there.
Right.
No, life is going to fight you. Life is going to fight you on every front, through every relationship, through your bills, through your debts, through your pains in your body, you name it. Life is going to fight you at every point. So you've got to meet it with equal aggression, as I like to say. But in the early days, life is merciless, so show no mercy. But again, that's speaking more metaphorically. I'm not saying go out and hurt people.
Right, right. No,
I'm just saying, attack your negativity. You know, but I mean, it's funny. I don't mean to imply that this is the intent of the person who asked the question at all. So I'm going to take this opportunity to just kind of go off because I've gotten questions about people from other things. And so when I use this kind of language and things, I'll have people on Metal Motivation with long hair asking me, well, dude, that's a little harsh. I'm thinking, harsh? Have you never seen an Iron Maiden album cover, bro? How could you, as a metalhead listening to Cannibal Corpse, say anything that I'm saying is harsh?
Right.
So it's a funny thing. And people just they forget. And so they'll ask me something, and I'll say, don't forget, guys, this is Metal Motivation. I'm not Joel Osteen.
Right, exactly.
I'm not the Pope, okay? This is Metal Motivation. Let's not forget that. There's going to be skulls and blood and thorns.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that you were talking about, that there has to be hatred. The universe tends to work in opposites, and everything. If there's love, there's the opposite of that, hatred, but it's the healthy balance of the two that keeps this universe, running. So you can definitely hate some things. That may be a very strong word to people. Some people say,
hate pop music.
Yeah.
I hate pop music. I'm jesting. I don't care what anybody likes, dislikes.
I know.
But, yeah, I mean, it's the other side of this is I'll get people who, I guess because sometimes of the way things are presented, it sounds maybe more sophisticated. It sounds a little deeper than what other motivational people might do. And so people confuse me with a therapist.
Right, and that's
asking me, and I'm just like, I said, listen, man, I'm just a guy on the internet, okay? You may need to go sit down with a professional therapist to deal with some of your stuff. Don't throw it on me just because you like the memes I post. That I'm supposed to be here and answer these, very sophisticated life situations that you have because I don't know you.
right.
And so, yeah, I just, the intent is to just be those daily screams for living aggressively to keep you going. And, if you want to go a little bit deeper with me, I have the coaching groups for that. But even then, we're still not sitting face-to-face in therapeutic sessions, et cetera, because, you know what, I don't want to do that.
Right, that's not your purpose of doing this. Mm-mm.
No, I would much rather give people principles that they can make their own, chew the meat, spit out the bones, right? So some things will fit and apply, some things won't fit and apply. That's okay. Do your thing, and the ultimate goal for me, I guess, would be to make a bunch of metal motivators. I'm not the only one. You are one.
Exactly.
Anybody who takes it seriously, positive philosophy and shares that with other people and helps to make it, you're a metal motivator. It shouldn't lie with me. I'm out here to make a whole bunch of other metal motivators so that they can go do that, because I think the world needs it.
I think so too. And one of the things that you say, it's not really self-help, it's mental help.
Mental help.
And we do have a Nessie in the chat room. She was asking if a good way to help kind of change your thinking, to not allow others' comments to be upsetting to you, even when you know that what they say is not true. Is there any way to aggressively, deal with that so you can not have something like that affect you?
Well, we're funny people. We will ignore the hundreds of people who've said encouraging words to us and yet focus on the one who doesn't.
Right.
So the one person who makes, that's the one that sticks in our crawl, and that, gets hold of our minds, and we forget the other things. I think my solution for everything, the core of my philosophy is this, and it's also the subtitle of the book that I'm writing. But it's, your best defense is a stronger you. That's your best defense in life. A stronger you. In other words, you don't have to think about how do I deal with each of these little situations. You just need to be a stronger person, because a stronger person doesn't give a damn.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we just need to build your personal strength and transform your life philosophy and your outlook to where you now have a different definition and a different way of looking and a different way of interpreting things like that. And if that's just the way you interpret things, then you're not going to let it get to you, because you have an understanding of it. Now, we already do this. We already do this. We do it for other areas of life. We just haven't applied it in this particular area right here, because if we were, overly sensitive, for example, about every little setback in life, well, then we could never get through it any given day, because life would floor us every time. So someone who may be sensitive to the comment of someone else on Facebook just deals with ease other problems in their life. If they come home and the dogs went through the trash and did whatever, they're like, it's just trash, I'm not going to cry over trash, and they clean it up. Right?
Right.
They get behind in a bill, and they're like, it's all right, I'll catch up. It doesn't bother them. For some reason, the comment bothers them. Other people, the trash bothers them, but the comment doesn't bother them. So, we have to have, again, a life philosophy that gives us colored sunglasses that we look at everything through. So we see everything in the same terms, the same way of interpreting. But what creates that is a stronger person. So I just tell people, it's like in counterfeiting, for those who investigate counterfeiting operations. There's so many different ways that you can counterfeit money. So you could never study all of the examples of counterfeit money, because there's always going to be new ones. So the way they train counterfeit investigators is not to show them all of these never-ending examples of counterfeit money. They have them focus on the actual money, the real thing. Because if you focus on the real thing, you'll recognize the false one. Right?
Right.
So it's a different way of looking at things. I don't want people to look at all of these different areas of life that they have to come up with ways to deal with it. You shouldn't have to deal with it. You're strong. You should be strong. You can carry these loads. You can deal with these people. Of course you can. If you're strong. So focus on building your strength.
Exactly. And
Just
Nessie
focus on
says,
that.
I like that, CJ, a stronger me. Uh, and Tammy says that she is liking what you're talking about. The Nessie says the power within. So it's all very good. What I would like to do, CJ, is take a couple of minutes break here, and what I want to do is play something for you. Like if you were to tune into my show, what would you want to hear? What would you request?
I would request Mashiach, but I don't know that you got it.
What is the band?
Mashiach, Meshiaak.
I don't believe I do. I've never heard of them.
Well, you need to get him because you're going to love him. It's the guy who headed up Forearm. You ever heard of Forearm?
No.
Well, they toured with Slayer a few years ago. They were a great band out of Australia. He started a new band called Mashiach, and the first album that they did is called Alliance of Thieves, and it's one of the best metal albums I've heard in the last year.
Oh, wow. I'll have to look them up on Facebook. Spell the name of the band name for me again.
Mashiach, Meshiaak.
Okay.
I don't know what a Mashiach is, but
I don't know either. But I'm always open to
the
learning.
album is Alliance of Thieves.
Okay, great. Well, I'm always open to looking, expanding my heavy metal head, as I say.
Right, but you can play. Do you have any Primal Fear?
I have a lot of primal fear.
Play When Death Comes Knocking.
Okay, let's see. Let me search for it here. Yep, we definitely have that song. Let me get it loaded up here. Primal Fear is a great band. They just put out a new album with some new tracks on it, but it's kind of a celebration of their career so far. But the new tracks are great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Best of Fear. Yep. All right, guys. Well, we are hanging out today with CJ, the Metal Motivator from Metal Motivation, and we're going to just take a break here and play a tune for you guys. Coming at you is Primal Fear, When Death Comes Knocking. And we will return, and we're hanging out. Metal Euphoria, SonicAsylumRadio.com. You are listening to Metal Euphoria on SonicAsylumRadio.com. And today we are live with CJ Ortiz, the Metal Motivator from Metal Motivation. I wanted to say hey to some people in the chat room. We have George Neal has joined us, and we have Tammy out in California. And if Beth is with you, Tammy, what's going on, Beth? And we have Lori and Vic Grabowski and Sherry and Mad Brad and Nessie. And we have Bob Mitchell, also known as the mayor of Sonic Asylum Radio, and some anonymous users. And everybody else out there listening today, welcome. So glad you guys are tuned in. We cannot do it without you. Absolutely. And you just heard Primal Fear, When Death Comes Knocking. And that was requested by CJ, and that comes off of the album I got. Well, this came off Angels of Mercy live in Germany. Great track, great band. So it's one of the things I wanted to bring up, CJ, is when I recently met you at Dingbats in Clifton, New Jersey. And it was quite a nice surprise. And there's kind of an interesting thing behind that. When I was getting ready to go to the club that night, for people that don't know, the show that night was an evening of heavy metal guitar with Metal Mike. And it was really great to see him do a lot of Halford songs and Pain Museum songs. It was wonderful to see Mike LaPond on stage. I've never had the chance yet to see Mike play live. So it was such a great evening of music and friends, and I love Dingbats. It's a great club. So while I'm getting ready for the show, I was deciding, what shirt did I want to wear? Typical girl things, and something came into my head and said, Vicky, wear your Metal Maiden t-shirt. And the thing about that t-shirt is I first saw it, a year before I actually bought it. And part of my background is that I'm a Pi Alpha Nu little sister fraternity from SUNY New Paltz, New York. I pledged the fraternity in 1987, and the girls are called the Maidens, and the brothers are called the Knights. So when I first saw that T-shirt, I thought, I need to get that. Number one, to support you and what you're doing, and number two, because it was perfect, Metal Maiden. Well, when I joined Sonic Asylum Radio 2.5 years ago, I thought, now I need to get that T-shirt. So I got it, and like I said, something told me to wear it that evening. And while my friend Greg and I are sitting at the bar, I look over and I see you. And I said to Greg, I said, I think that's CJ, the Metal Motivator. And you were hanging out over by the merchandise booth. And I got up and I said, I'm just going to walk up and go to the merchandise booth and just make sure. And you looked at me and you just smiled and you were like, you're wearing my shirt. And I was like, you got to be CJ. And I thought, how cool was that? You know, that was definitely the universe intervening.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that was just, very cool. So you just never know,
No. I mean, it's just what Joseph Campbell, the mythologist, would refer to as following your bliss. And what he meant by that was that if you follow your bliss, which is the center of who you are, your passion, your desires, etc., you follow those. And he said doors will open up that would not open otherwise and would not have opened for someone else. It's just like the universe moves on behalf of those who are following their deepest passions with reckless abandon or a childlike faith, should I say. And it just, I can't say how many times that sort of stuff has happened. And again, that was a great happenstance in and of itself. And you just throw on top of that just the fact that we found out that we were probably in school at the same time.
Yes, exactly.
The very same small town. And
it's
so
incredible.
Suddenly a huge world and universe becomes very, very small. And these things, I believe, happen as encouragements to us to keep following our bliss and to believe for the unexpected.
Exactly.
Great things can happen.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on things like the laws of attraction? That's something that I've been looking into a lot as of late.
Well, there is what I teach, and there's what I'll tell you one-on-one. And I'll tell you the one-on-one side here. I don't teach the law of attraction only because I want to teach things that I can guarantee will work for every person in every situation anywhere. And I can't do that with something like the law of attraction or prayer or, anything that I can't just guarantee that if you do this, this is the change you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
But what do I think about these sorts of things? I think the universe is an incredibly powerful place. Now, I know that when you touch on spiritual or religious type of issues, people get really weird, not just in the metal community, but just anywhere. I get all that, so I try to keep a lot of those elements outside of what I do so that I can, again, not put anybody off and give them principles that will apply for anybody, anywhere, in any place. However, I do believe that, I'm not an atheist. That's not my point of view. So I do believe that incredible things happen in this world, and there are these elements that can come into play that we can't explain. I don't have a scientific explanation. I mean, we can talk about vibration and energy and thought and all these sorts of things, but I don't think anybody's proven anything yet as far as in a test tube regarding the law of attraction. But there are 1,000,001 examples of these very funny things my own life. I've heard it from others in their life, and so on. So there's definitely something at play. And the very best that I can explain it is that, yeah, I mean, what you focus on and what you envision in and of yourself, in a way, brings you to that place. It may not be exactly it. It may not. It may be just a shadow of it, whatever. But it's one of those things. It looks very much like it. And, I mean, when you see things like the movie The Secret, I mean, of course, The Secret is nothing new. I mean, we're talking about something that's supposed to be very ancient. But, I mean, in terms of contemporary self-help literature, it's not new. Napoleon Hill talked about this. James Allen talked about this over 100 years ago. These are, the Bible talks about it. This concept of, faith moving mountains, so to speak, and changing the nature of reality by whatever. Now, somebody could probably go in and show you all the mechanics that are at play. That, for example, because you believe a certain thing and focus on a certain thing, it starts to change attributes about your behavior. It starts to change the actions that you take. You start becoming more friendly or more energetic, and lo and behold, the butterfly effect and all of these little events that have been changed because of the different way of you thinking and believing actually creates this. But it didn't materialize because of something you held in your mind. It was because of what was in your mind changed, the way that you behaved, etc. So it's hard to say, but from a kindergarten standpoint, yeah, I mean, if you focus on these things and you follow your bliss, strange stuff is going to happen, and I can't explain it. And there may be a valid scientific explanation. It wouldn't disappoint me if that was the case. I just want the results.
Right, exactly. The main thing is the results. So great answer. Thank you for that. Now, I know that you travel around and do motivational speaking. Do you go all over the country with this, CJ? Have you ever gone out of the country to do this?
No. I've only done, I don't know, maybe 5 events. And I did them in areas where it was convenient for me.
Okay.
So when I was living in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, I did them there. I have my girlfriend lives in, who you met that night, Lizzie.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, she's awesome. She lives in Rhode Island.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
So I fly up to see her, and so back in 2013, we organized one of those events, and Mark Lopes played with his band at the time, Metal 101, and Metal Mike drove up for that. And so he was there, and he played. So we did an event there, and then, I did one. The next one, the last one was in, actually at Dingbats.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I had to miss that one. I remember seeing
Right.
you advertised that, and I thought, oh, how cool.
Right. Yeah. So those things I did as convenience for me, because I mean, the downside to what I do is that motivational type information is so readily available. People just kind of like it dispensed for free, and that's it. So people will ask me all the time, dude, when you coming out to so-and-so? When you coming here? When you coming here? Well, I don't know. When you going to foot the bill?
Right.
Because it costs me time and money. So, you don't want me to say I'm coming to Westchester, New York, and it's a $197 registration fee. You'd be like, no, I don't love them that much.
Right.
So, until it becomes something that looks like, and I'm not looking to, become a multi-millionaire by doing this stuff, but I'm also not willing to suffer loss because of it either. I would much rather just time and hang out. And, it's a blast to do these things, and you can have bands play and do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, sure,
So,
absolutely.
I might do something where it's, there's maybe do it based on what people are already used to, which is a cover charge.
Right.
And do that. I mean, obviously you're not going to get rich that way, but so long as, you can finance that sort of thing, then that makes it more worth it.
Sure, absolutely. And people can find you on social media, of course, on your Facebook page, Metal Motivation. I did put a link in the chat room for people to check out. And where else can people find you on social media?
The only other place that I really do a lot is Instagram. I'll post some stuff on Twitter too. Twitter has never been good for me, ever. So Facebook is one, and then I'm always on Instagram, and that's at Metal Motivator.
Very cool, very cool. And you also have, I wanted to touch on a merchandise store on the website, which has all kinds of cool stuff.
There's a link there on my site, metalmotivation.com, or you can just go there directly at metalmotivationstore.com.
Yeah, you have a lot of cool stuff. I want to get one of the Metal Up shirts. And I love my Metal Maiden shirt. It's perfect. It's a cool design too.
Yeah, I mean, my whole theory behind shirts was that I felt when I started this at the time, everything was the Warren Star and Affliction stuff. So everything was just overdone. It was just crosses and skulls and flowers, and it covered the whole shirt. And I certainly didn't want my name or face or anything like that on it. Because Affliction is the name of the company, Warren Star is the name of the company, Rock and Roll Gangstar is the name of the company. So I didn't want people wearing company name. What I wanted is for the shirts to say something about the person who was wearing it. So, Metal Maiden. Right, so that says something about you. It doesn't say anything about CJ. It doesn't say anything about Metal Motivation. It says something about you, Vicky.
Right.
Metal Maiden. So when you wear a shirt that says Metal Up, it's telling people your attitude. So in fact, that's my advertising. Whenever I run ads for my shirts, I always say, wear your attitude. So that's the philosophy behind the shirts. And I keep them simple because everybody else's stuff is overdone. I didn't want it to look like a band shirt.
Right, exactly.
Band shirts, I got plenty of them. Band shirts, it's a lot of, it's full artwork on the front and back and stuff. So I wanted mine to be more minimal. And so it's the skull and the statement, and that's it. Black, red, white. You don't need anything else.
That's it, absolutely. And what's even greater, one of the colors for the Palfanu Little Sisters is red and black. So some of the comments we're getting in the chat room, Tammy said that she went and checked out that band you suggested, Mishiak. She says, love the sound, good tip. Nessie has said that she went to your website and is going to be downloading the book. Very cool. PJ from the UK has just joined us in the chat room, and she said, interesting bloke. So awesome. Yeah. PJ is a fellow internet DJ. She has a show on New Regal Radio. She's on the UK division called JP and PJ's Alternative World. Great person, great supporter.
I got a big following in the UK. I got a lot of good friends up there.
Oh, good.
Dave Wakeham from Wakeham's Territory, Benjamin Ash, who just stepped down, but for the past few years was playing guitar for Carcass. He's a good friend. She may know some of those guys.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Well, I know that you have some other obligations to get to. So basically, there's just a couple of more things I wanted to ask you, a little off-the-wall things. When you were a kid, okay, what were some of your hobbies? Like, were you an indoor kid, an outdoor kid?
I was an outdoor kid, but my my personal hobby, or the thing that I had a talent for, was art.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what I went into. It eventually became commercial art, which that's my business side, the communications, design, and branding. When I was young, it was drawing. So I did that a lot. And then, when I was, of course, growing up in New York, as a boy, you're playing baseball and, that sort of stuff. So I would run out. So I had two brothers. And so, yeah, we would go outside. But I was very much into drawing when I was young.
Oh, very cool. And do you still do a lot of, I mean, you said you've integrated that into, your other business. But do you ever like take a day where you just kind of sketch and,
No. I mean, if you go on my Facebook page, and my Instagram, I recently posted some of my high school drawings.
Oh, did you?
But no, school and doing it for business pretty much killed all artistic desire in me. My podcast co-host was in 22 years in the U.S. Special Forces, and 13 of those years in the Army's most elite counterterrorism unit, Delta Force. And so he's done everything from, scuba diving to skydiving to you name it. Someone once asked him if he ever did any of those anymore. He said, no, the Army kind of takes the fun out of it all. And I told him, I said, I can relate to that because, doing art as business takes that fun out of it. And so I don't have any desire whatsoever to do that. It is just, I mean, I enjoy the design process, even though I'm doing something for a client, what have you. I enjoy the design process. So I guess in a way, I get that satisfaction. But, every time I turn around, there's another thing I've got to do that's design related. So it's never ending. So for me to take time off to do that would just feel like work.
Okay. Good answer. Thank you for that. Now, being it, of course, it is metal motivation, and right now I want to focus on the word metal. I'm guessing you've been a metalhead since your teenage years. What are some of your favorite bands? As we know, you really like Primal Fear, as we played before. But what are some of the other bands that like really got you into metal back then?
Well, for me, I was fortunate, as probably you were, to be at the right age to experience the new wave of British heavy metal.
Yes.
So I remember in like 78, 79, I just moved to Texas. And I loved, at that time, because the kids they were playing, it was AC/DC, and, of course, I always loved Kiss since I was really little. So it was Kiss, AC/DC, Van Halen at the time, Ted Nugent, Bad Company, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, all this kind of stuff, Jimi Hendrix.
All the great classics, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where my head was, but I would go back to New York every summer to visit my dad. And so one summer, one of the first summers I went back, I hooked up with a family friend. We were the same age, and we went off to meet a bunch of his friends in Westchester, and we were all around a campfire and drinking beer well underage, and they had a jam box, and they were playing stuff I'd never heard before. So this is like, I don't know, 1980 maybe, and it was, at the time, Angel Rich and Diamond Head, Raven, Anvil, Iron Maiden, and in one night in the campfire, I was born again.
Wow.
One night, that's all it took. I was absolutely blown away. And so when I came back to Texas, I had to mail order a lot of this stuff to get a lot of these albums because they didn't have it down there. And that to me was such a formative time. And so obviously I'm going to like a lot of those bands, still to this day. If people ask you, for example, what your favorite bands are, you say, well, it's always going to be the original ones that influenced you, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Judas Priest, etc. That doesn't mean I listen to all that now, necessarily.
Right.
I'm not going to turn it off, but I'm not necessarily going to go out of my way. So I like stuff from all over the spectrum. I love thrash, I love some black metal, I love hardcore, power metal, all of the above. So yeah, I mean, it's any band that you could possibly name would be a band that I probably listen to. There's certain things, I'm the type who can be a little bit of a snob sometimes. Like, for example, I remember going to see Goat Whore in Dallas, and they had their shirts up, and on the back of one of the shirts, it said, "Less Whitechapel and more haunting the chapel." I'm the type who would get that shirt, whereas my best friend, he likes Whitechapel. But I'm kind of like, there's just something about it that just doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to take away the riffs off of some of these bands. They're great, riff masters, and they do a great job. There's just something about it just kind of falls in that screamo category to me, and it's just like, I tend to be more. I'll take the Goat Whore with the hair and the spikes on the arms. But I love everybody from Iron Reagan to Havoc to Lamb of God, like I said, Mashiach. Oh my gosh!
So quite
Gojira,
a wide range.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I love it all.
Yeah, me too. That's one of the things I love about Sonic Asylum Radio is that all the DJs have such vast knowledge and what everybody plays. You'll hear everything from classic to current to underground and everything in between because we just love music. And we're always open to new bands that are out there and expanding, our knowledge and our own fan base. At the end of the day, I'm a fan. Always have been, always will be. And the fact that, I can get on the airwaves and reach out to people worldwide and, maybe play something for them that they've never heard of before, that they're like, wow, that's a great band. And as we were saying with the advent of social media, they can have instant access to that band. Go to their Facebook page, see what they have, go to their merchandise store, wherever they may be on Bandcamp, Reverb Nation, CD Baby, wherever they may be, and it's wonderful just to keep learning about new things. So very, very cool. Well, CJ, I have had a blast having you on the show today. You are such a wonderful person. As I was saying, you're very insightful, very perceptive, very inspiring. And I've just really enjoyed this today. And I know everybody in the chat room and out there listening, they've enjoyed it as well. And if you could just tell the listeners again where to find you on social media and if there's anything that you want to leave us with.
Yeah, you can. Thank you for having me. I appreciate all the kind words, and I'll certainly do my best to try and live up to them. You can find, first of all, the website metalmotivation.com, and then I'm primarily on Facebook and Instagram, so that would be facebook.com/Metal Motivation. And on Instagram, I'm at Metal Motivator. And those would be the best ways to reach me. I'm always there, so I'm not hard to find.
Very, very cool.
But thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you as well. And is there anything that you would like to say to the listeners before we wrap this up?
Yeah, that's what I always say at the end of everything. Just remember, whatever you do, don't suck. Metal up.
Absolutely. All right, that's awesome. Great words to live by, for sure. And we'll definitely stay in touch. One of the things we do here at the station is we have a band page on our website, and we will get you added on there. And what it'll do is it'll link people directly to your Facebook page. So if people are on there perusing the band page, they can check you out there. So yeah, all good stuff, all positive. And, I look forward to seeing your posts and your Facebook Live and your podcasts. And, it's all about, cross communication and positivity and, spreading the metal motivation, absolutely. So thank you once again, CJ. And you have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you. And if you could hang on for just one quick second when we go off the air, that would be really cool. All right, so we will stay in touch, and thank you once again. And all right, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to load up a song here. What would be another song that you would request if you were to come in and listen?
It would be Covering Fire by Havoc.
All right, let's see if I have it. I know I have some Havoc. Just a matter of what I have.
Covering Fire and Dead on Arrival.
Okay, what is the name of the song again?
The first one is Covering Fire.
Okay, let's see. Unfortunately, oh, wait a minute. I do have that track. Okay. All right, excellent. All right. Well, we will talk very soon. And coming at you guys right now is some Havoc with Covering Fire. And I'll be back. And we're hanging out. Metal Euphoria, SonicAsylumRadio.com, the best underground music on the planet, period.